So if there's anything to learn from Fukushima, it's they always use like this 137 and cesium and its half-life of 30 years, but they don't ever talk about the radioactive nuclei with hundreds of thousands of years at half-life, which will harm DNA forever, as far as we're concerned. This will too for me. Um, and then when they have these maps that release the radiation, they always show up to some point and say, well, there you go, it went to there, but it's been ongoing for 7 years, so everything's radiated. This one's a little better than most maps, but she still talks about a 30-year half-life like Fantasyland.
Behaving like a dye with a half-life of 30 years, which we injected into the coastal waters of Fukushima. We want to emphasize that our approach is restricted to the physical spreading and does not account for possible biological effects, for example adhesion of isotopes to sinking organic matter. Neither does our model assimilate any ocean data, therefore we do not account for the actual state of the local currents at the time of the release. However, the initial state turned out to be of minor importance for the tracer spreading after 2 to 3 years. The following animation shows the spreading of our dye at the ocean's surface. The color represents the concentration of the tracer relative to the initial concentration in the coastal area of Fukushima at the end of the injection period. The tracer invades the highly energetic Kuroshio regime within the first weeks after the release and starts spreading meridionally due to the eddies dominating the flow field in this area. After 1 year, maximum concentrations are diluted by 2 orders of magnitude and already cross the dateline, further heading east. The southern edge of the tracer cloud reaches the Hawaiian Islands after about 2 years, while the northern edge has begun to enter the Bering Sea. Meanwhile, concentrations near Japan have been dropping significantly due to replacement by less contaminated waters through the Kuroshio, separating the main cloud into a northern and a southern part. After 4 years, the maximum concentration has dropped by 3 orders of magnitude, and the entire northern Pacific is filled with a certain amount of tracer. When the peak concentration reaches the North American coast after about 5 to 6 years, it has been diluted by 4 orders of magnitude. The concentration levels from now on tend to homogenize over the entire basin.
So the radioactive releases at Fukushima are still ongoing and will be ongoing as long as anybody is alive that is alive today and for thousands of years. I'm just looking at a IAEA report about Fukushima, and the IAEA continues to assist the government of Japan in ensuring that the regulatory update sea area monitoring program is comprehensive, credible, and transparent. Transparent means a black wall that you can't see through to them. That's what transparent means. Because let's just go to this report that has to do with groundwater, and they say a bunch of stuff, and they're working on it really hard, and they're really smart, and then they give you this stuff. And ND means non-detectable. That means it's below the limits that they've set, and all they do is keep raising the limits. Represent a value below the detection limit. That's not even true. It's detectable. They have figures there. It's not below the detection limit. It's detectable. They have figures. It says non-detectable, and then they have a number. So it's just so retarded. I'm sorry, but it's all cover up. It's all, no one understands this stuff except the person who wrote it. It's very hard anyway. So that's just ongoing. Taking a look at the Nuclear Emergency Tracking Center. Here's the Brunswick plant. Here's the ocean. Okay, well here's the ocean, and it's got this little beach of sand to protect it. And then it's got a few fields that the water would have to go through to flood it. I'm not counting the rain that fell and is coming down the rivers towards it. So it's not actually right on the ocean, but it's not a very good spot anyway. None of these plants are in a good spot. The terrorists just put them wherever they can. So I was looking at some of the readings, and you have to get a little ways away from this power plant before you even get any readings. 371. If it's over 100, you don't want to live there. So basically, there's nowhere in the world anymore, I don't think, that you can safely live from radiation. So those aren't extremely high, so I would say it hasn't melted yet, but if the wind's blowing from the west, it just goes out over the ocean anyway, and you can't tell unless you got a monitor out there or somebody near the plant who's willing to harm themselves to monitor stuff. Just pick another one here, 100 counts per minute. 355 counts per minute. I'm over here in Portland, which oddly enough has had some low numbers lately, but now it's up to 180. So I don't want to live here either. Go out to Beaverton and it's low, so you'll say from Beaverton. Not really, but okay. Anyway, glad Brunswick hasn't melted yet, I guess. I'm looking at a few things concerning the Brunswick nuclear power plant, and I found a few things, and this is from December 30th, 2011, and the Nuclear Regulatory Commission will keep a closer eye on the Brunswick nuclear plant. So isn't that wonderful? They're going to keep a closer eye on one of the 450 nuclear terrorist plants. This is a 2018. This is probably after they did a 7-year study, and they have the things they're going to do. They're going to order something to respond. They're going to modify an order. They're going to order something again, and they're going to request information. So they're really keeping a close eye on that nuclear power plant that's all flooded and surrounded by water. So after digging through all of whatever, I found this little thing that says a hazardous event has resulted in on-site conditions sufficient to prohibit the plant staff from accessing the site via personal vehicles due to the flooding of local roads by Tropical Storm Florence. Well, I don't know what that has to do with anything. If you need people there to operate the controls at this nuclear terrorist spot, you hire one of your terrorist helicopters and you fly some terrorists in to work on it. It's not that big a deal. What do you mean the road's flooded? So the guards are there ordering pizza through drones? So they've got a hot shutdown on both the units, and a hot shutdown takes weeks. And I remember hearing them say they were going to close it down 3 hours. They were going to not have energy output 3 hours before the storm hit. So call home security, call the CIA, the FBI, your local police department, the National Guard, and the Pentagon, and tell them these terrorists are all out throughout the country, and the government will get right on it and take care of it, because the government loves you. So why don't we want these nuclear terrorists operating these things? Well, this is Strontium Milks, and he's talking to Dana Durnford on July 28, 2018, and Dana came into some port, I believe, and was talking to Strontium over the phone, and they're talking about what's happening in the world and why we don't want these terrorist plants operating. So Dana Durnford is out there on a boat during the summer, and he needs donations for batteries and fuel and food and cameras to take pictures of the fish. Anyway, this is 3.5 minutes following.
It's unimaginable how bad this trip has been.
That's really saying something. I'm shocked. Yeah. What bad news?
The coastline. The coastline is stripped. It's so silent at nighttime, so quiet in the forest. I went into the forest everywhere I go now. on purpose looking for spider webs or any kind of life. And no birds. Some of the islands I have heard birds on, but most of the islands, no birds. Nothing like that whatsoever. No insects bugging you. And if you do see an insect, he's a loner. I go right into these islands, heavily forested, tropical rainforest coastline. So even the high tide zone is completely gone on top of that for everybody that's taking notes out there. And what that means is the high tide zone is separate. This is where the sea spray goes up. And there was an incredible community of flora and fauna and sea anemones and insects. And it was well documented, but the entire thing is missing. We noticed that the last time too, but it's more pronounced, I think, now.
Wow.
And just a small strip on the coastline of algae. When that goes, it's going to look just like the moon there. And they closed down the sports fishery for the first time, the coho salmon over in Prince Rupert and Skeena River. This is a massive river. Notorious sports fishing, and this is really saying something when they done something like that. And I was over in Prince Rupert, which is right by Alaska, and so when I'm doing the coastline, I travel. For anybody that's not familiar, we travel all the way up to the Alaska border and Canada border. We hung out there, and we've done multiple spots. We're looking for pinch points up the coastline.
What are you looking for?
The pinch points is where the ocean has to come in to flood the coast. Yeah. So pinch points is a spot on the coastline between islands and groups of islands where the ocean will come through to go to the interior of the rest of Canada. And for people not familiar, there's 27,000 islands up here. And so on the very outside ocean side, there's what we call pinch points. These are the ideal spots because the ocean has to flow through there to get to the rest of Canada. And so there, if we don't find the species there, we're not going to find it on the interior. We are checking that, don't get me wrong.
Yeah. Let me say something. You said quiet forests, silent forests. This is no joke. When I moved up here, and I'm in Southern Oregon, at nights in the summer, from May on, April even, the number of crickets, incalculable. The sound of crickets at night was so loud it would almost keep you awake. And at the last break, I stuck my head outside the studios here. You know how many crickets I heard, Dana?
I'm afraid to ask.
0.
Wow.
Not a sound. Not one cricket. All night. Nothing.
Yeah.
And nobody seems to notice. Nothing. And it makes me enraged that we have done this to this planet. And I go out and...
So I agree with Strontium Milks on his cricket count. I heard a couple of crickets the other day, and I was like, the other night, and I was like, oh, amazing. I think, but I generally totally agree with the bird count. They've gone way down. Bugs have gone way down. So that's it.